Hello everybody and welcome back to Fantasy Football Fix. My name is Eddie or FPL Phillips and I'm back from holiday feeling fresh and with a fresh FPL draft all updated for you all to bring you the progress on how my team has developed since I last brought it to you. I'm currently looking at a team myself, but you can check out other managers' teams who have done better than me in the past in FPL on Fantasy Football Fix. They've got a combined total of 82 top 10k finishes between them, nearly 20 top 1000 finishes in the world between them as well. You can check out all their individual team reveals as well as their cumulative consensus 11 by using the link down below in the description to take you over to Fantasy Football Fix. And if you're interested in seeing more YouTube content from us, then don't forget to subscribe, of course. But without any messing about, let's get into it and check out my team and how it's doing. And I've switched up things. If you saw my last video, you'll have seen I had a 4-5-1 in there. At the moment, I'm now on a 3-5-2 because I think basically, since we've last updated this team, there's been a lot more forwards that have come into contention. There are a lot more strikers who are possibilities for me to own come the start of the season, or I may even want to transfer in. And so really, I think the formation shift needed to happen. I couldn't go in just having Haaland and two 4.5 million forwards because it had very little flexibility. And like some of the names we're going to mention, Højlund coming in, Jackson looks good, Darwin Núñez has had a fantastic preseason. I think it looks sensible to have at least two strikers in your formation at the moment, and I think I'm seeing even a few more drafts with three forwards, so the 3-4-3 becoming a lot more popular too. So I know it's perhaps a little bit more boring, perhaps a template formation you would argue at this time, but I think right now having at least two strikers is pretty essential in your draft. But we'll get into things a bit further back in the team anyway and start things off with the goalkeeper. And I'm actually going to be going right now for Sam Johnston of Crystal Palace. And now this is one that is a little bit more of a risky option, one that I'm personally going for, but maybe you guys might not want to yourselves. There's also a bit more I want to see from Onana. Perhaps I could end up with him in my side, which we're going to discuss as we kind of bring in the whole defence. But Johnston at 4.5 million does look my preferred option at that price point. Pickford is also one I'm considering. I know there's a few people who don't like Jordan Pickford. Everton have had a decent pre-season, which I'm not going to get carried away with. They've kept some clean sheets, but overall, you would argue that they're probably going to be in the battle for relegation once more. Johnston looked fantastic in the later stages of the season. Crystal Palace, what was it, 4th best for expected goals conceded. He seemed to be the starting keeper, but the reason I mentioned the risk is that Gaeta could really come in at any time. He was the preferred option under the new manager Johnston, but there is that kind of argument and I suppose that kind of risk that if Johnston has a few bad games, all of a sudden Gaeta could come in and he could be displaced, which is never something you want to happen in your FPL team because you're always going to want to make sure that a keeper is a player that you're not really going to transfer all that often unless it's on a wild card or using a free hit or something like that. It's not that optimal to use free transfers on goalkeeping slots in general. But yeah, Johnston's my 4.5 at the moment. They've got some nice fixtures to kick off the season, Crystal Palace, and they are a team who I am backing to do quite well this season, which does feed into why I've selected him, of course. But the rest of the defence looks like this right now. Perhaps a little bit something you might not see with many drafts right now is Trent Alexander-Arnold in them, to be honest. I think the no Trent drafts, if you have them, are becoming a lot more popular. But Trent, for me, 8 million, I still really like the look of him. I like how he's been playing in pre-season. And ultimately, there is also that kind of balance with the side that Trent is a player who, if you don't own him at the start of the season and he starts firing, then he's going to be quite difficult to get to. Unless you've got some money saved up or there's a midfield or forward option who you've got some funds in and it's easily to downgrade and upgrade to Trent. It's a difficult one. It's much more easy to take money out of a position than it is to put it in if you don't have it in the bank. So Trent at 8 million, although it is 2.5 million or more above some of the other defensive options, I think I'm going to take him in my side, which I wouldn't be saying a few weeks ago is a controversial take. But yeah, 8 million, I still really like him. I'll still obviously be playing him every week, and Trent is in my team right now. Luke Shaw is one who has got a lot more debate around him since Onana has joined, of course. Onana has looked really, really good for Manchester United in the friendlies. He's started playing out from the back in a way we never really saw from De Gea and that people have expected Onana to come in and do. He's even playing balls over the top, playing out of his hands. And I could see, Rashford running onto some of those long balls and maybe even Onana grabbing some assists. But I also think that Luke Shaw is kind of underrated in his attacking threat. I think there are a lot of chances he created last season that weren't put away because Manchester United did not have a striker. And now this kind of banks on Højlund coming in and being okay, but I also think that's going to happen. So I think it will help Luke Shaw even more. His underlying data I know isn't as good as some of the other defenders, like Ben Chilwell, who is another one that is very, very much in my consideration, don't get me wrong. But Shaw at the moment is still probably my preferred 5.5 million option. Him, John Stones and Chilwell, I think could be one of the main arguments and one of the main, maybe even deciding points surrounding what ends up being the best FPL Game Week 1 draft to own. But then Estupinian is my other defender, 5.0 million for him. I think a lot of people own him at the moment, and for good reason. I still think he's underpriced. I still think with those nice early fixtures for Brighton, he's going to do very well. Gabriel is another one who I don't dislike massively at 5 million. I think maybe he does get a little bit overhyped, but he does have some nice rotation with some of the Crystal Palace defenders. So if I didn't end up with Johnston, and I could have like Anderson in as my 4.5 million defender, then I do really like the Arsenal and Crystal Palace rotation if you're willing to go there, because I think with that, I would like to have Gabriel on the bench for Arsenal's much tougher fixtures, because I don't see too much attacking potential from him, unlike someone with Chilwell, where I would even maybe consider starting him against Liverpool in Game Week 1 if I did have him in my side. But yeah, into the midfield then, where the bulk of the funds is going to be going, and this is where there are some template picks. Marcus Rashford, Phil Foden's in a lot of teams at the moment. Brian Mbeumo looks fantastic as well and is in a lot of sides. But I've also gone with Martinelli, and I've chosen to leave out Bukayo Saka. I've made a few videos on this on my own channel and kind of discussed why I don't think Saka's underlying data is as strong as Martinelli's, and I know he's more assured for minutes. Martinelli is going to get fewer minutes, and so when you look at per 90 stats and they're in favour of Martinelli, maybe that argument isn't as strong because Saka is going to get more minutes. He's got those penalties included as well. But Martinelli is just, in my opinion, a better FPL asset, a more fun player to own. And that's the kind of style I go for with my FPL sides, is ones that I'm not too fearful of not going with Saka, even at 50% ownership or whatnot, and getting my rank damaged a little bit early on in the season. I'd rather go with my gut, go with my true feelings and analysis and assessment from watching these teams. And from my point of view, Martinelli is going to get quite a lot of minutes. I don't think he's anywhere near as big a rotation risk as people fear in that Arsenal side. But I also think that he'll do fantastically when he's on the pitch. And that's the most important thing for me alongside those minutes, is how he performs. And Saka does take the byline more. Martinelli's more of a driving at goal kind of, player. So he's one that I'm preferring over Saka at the moment. But I do have 0.5 million in the bank with this side. So if all goes badly, I could end up upgrading to Saka early on, because it's unlikely his price will go up unless he's really, really good, because he's already so highly owned in FPL come the start of the season. And then finally, the most exciting player in my team really is Eze, who I owned towards the back end of last season and managed to jump on him when he grabbed a brace in one of the later game weeks. And I've got some loyalty to this man. Maybe that is feeding into it, but he's looked absolutely amazing in pre-season. He is now the talisman of Crystal Palace. There's no Wilfried Zaha, which could also mean him on penalties, and looks very likely to mean him on penalties, which just gives him the edge over Mitoma for me. But Eze and Mbeumo at the 6.5 million price point, that price point is now becoming a little bit more stacked. As I mentioned, there's Mitoma. There's also now Diaby at Villa, who I really like the look of, but we just don't have any existing Premier League data for him. But I'm definitely not fearful of having, some more cheap midfielders in my side. There are plenty of options now in those kind of price brackets. So that's why Eze can make it into my side, and I'm not really worried about being able to upgrade someone like a Bruno Fernandes too much right now. But then finally, the forward line, which is a little bit more boring, Erling Haaland and then Gabriel Jesus at 8 million. It's kind of a similar story with the Trent situation, where I would like to be able to downgrade to someone like a Jackson, Darwin, Højlund, whoever starts off the season well. Being able to jump onto them could be something valuable. And with Jesus at 8 million, there's going to be no trouble in doing that. If I went for one of the other 7.5s, you go with Darwin and Jackson starts off really well and he goes up in price. With my case, I've got the 0.5 million in the bank, so it wouldn't matter too much. But if you do that and you don't have any in the bank, then you could miss a price rise, be forced into early transfers, which is definitely not going to be something that is ideal. So that's kind of why I prefer to go with Jesus. Arsenal have some brilliant fixtures in their first 3 games. You're going with someone who's been proven in the Premier League and at the start of the Premier League season to do really, really well. So I don't think there's really any risk involved with going Jesus in the first game week. And I think, you know, it might not be the most risky and fun thing to do. It is a sensible thing to do. And I'm taking a few risks in other areas of my team. So going with Jesus seems just like a bog standard, easy thing to do. And it makes sense in my eyes to do that. On the bench then is where the rest of the funds are going, besides that 0.5 million that I've got saved in the bank, which I will just keep reminding you of. I've got Henry of Brentford, who haven't been performing great defensively in pre-season. Flecken in goal has been particularly poor, which has kind of taken my mind off him as a 4.5 million keeper. But I really like Henry as an option. Brentford have some nice fixtures, but it's more just his attacking threat going forward, where he's overlapping loads, which sells him for me. There are some other 4.5 millions I like. Pau Torres, who we've even been saying potentially fullback in the Aston Villa side. Looks a very nice option too. I talked about Anderson, who I could go with if you were looking to someone to rotate with an Arsenal defender. And then I've got Kabore, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, Luton, who's come in and looks like he'll be playing in the wing-back position, which just gives him the edge over Bell and the other 4.0 millions for me, Bayer and Baldock. Although they are all grabbing goals at the moment in pre-season, it seems to be. It is going to be very tight between those kind of four options, I suppose. More down to three now, with Kabore being the leading option at Luton. And then finally, Archer's in my side at the moment. I may well change him over to Mboma. I can't even remember the guy's name from West Ham, who's been talked about by David Moyes as being used a lot more this season. So he may well end up in my team. To be honest, that's kind of one of the decisions that I'll make in the last week, or maybe even the few days before game week 1, is which 4.5 million has been looking good in pre-season. I'd be on him at the moment, you know, between him and Archer. Archer still seems to be the backup to Watkins, so I don't mind him as an option at all. I don't think it's going to be blocking me from any kind of Aston Villa triple up anytime soon. But yeah, that rounds off the 15 and my team right now. Let me know what you guys think of it down below in the comments. Have you got any thoughts on your own team? And maybe you've got some dilemmas of your own that you'd like to share and maybe get some help with in the comments. I'll get round to replying to a few of those. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Make sure if you want to check out all the other team reveals of managers with far better rank histories and far better records than mine in FPL, you can do that via the link down below to take you to Fantasy Football Fix for the Elite 11 and all their good team reveals. So yeah, thank you very much for that, everyone, tuning in once more, and I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.